Mark had always been a patient man, but something strange had been happening for weeks. His water bill had skyrocketed, yet he hadn't been using any more water than usual. Confused, he began to investigate, checking for leaks and even questioning his family about excessive water usage. But everything seemed normal until one afternoon when he noticed his neighbor, Karen, washing her SUV with water from his outdoor faucet. At first, he thought it was a mistake, but as the days passed, he realized that Karen had been using his water regularly, completely disregarding the fact that she hadn't asked for permission. Mark felt his anger bubbling inside him, but he didn't want to start an argument that would turn into a long-standing neighborhood feud. Instead, he decided to teach her a lesson in the most unexpected way possible. He went to a local butcher and bought several gallons of pig's blood. The butcher gave him a strange look, but Mark simply smiled and left. Once home, he carefully poured the blood into his outdoor water tank, making sure it was completely mixed with the remaining water. The next morning, he waited. As expected, Karen appeared with her usual smug look, connected the hose, and turned on the water. At first, everything seemed fine, but then, instead of clear water, thick, red liquid started pouring out of the hose. It splashed onto the hood of her white SUV, dripping down like something out of a horror movie. Karen gasped, staring in shock as the crimson liquid spread across her vehicle. She let out a blood-curdling scream, dropping the hose as the red fluid soaked into her clothes and ran down the driveway. Her face turned pale as she staggered back, desperately wiping at the stains with her hands, only to make it worse. The sight of what she believed to be real blood pouring onto her car made her panic. She ran toward her house, screaming for help, drawing the attention of other neighbors who stepped outside to see what was happening. One of them, a man in his 50s, looked at the scene in horror. "Oh my God, what happened?" Karen turned toward him, her hands shaking. "The water upped its blood," she shrieked, pointing toward the hose that was still spitting out red liquid onto the pavement. Some neighbors gasped. Others took out their phones to record the bizarre sight. Mark stood by his window, struggling to hold in his laughter. He had planned for this moment, but the level of sheer terror on Karen's face was beyond his expectations. He watched as she frantically called someone on her phone, her hands trembling. Minutes later, a security officer from the homeowners association arrived. He looked between Karen and the blood-covered car, trying to make sense of the situation. "What exactly happened here?" Karen, still hysterical, pointed at the hose. "I was washing my car and blood came out instead of water. Someone is trying to curse me." The officer frowned. Walking over to the water source, he examined the hose, following it back to Mark's property. "Where is this water coming from?" he asked. Mark decided it was time to step outside. He walked out casually, arms crossed. "Oh, that water? That's my water," he said, smiling. Karen's eyes widened. "Why your water?" "Yes, Karen, my water. The water you've been stealing to wash your car every day without my permission." Silence fell over the group. Some neighbors exchanged knowing glances, while others covered their mouths to suppress their chuckles. Karen looked around, suddenly realizing that she had no defense. Her face turned red, and she stammered, "Yeah, I didn't know." Mark raised an eyebrow. "You didn't know you were stealing my water?" The officer sighed, shaking his head. "Karen, is this true? Have you been using his water?" She looked down, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Mark took a step closer. "Consider this a lesson. Next time, ask before you take something that doesn't belong to you. Otherwise, who knows what might happen." Karen swallowed hard, nodding quickly before rushing back into her house, her clothes still stained with red. The security officer gave Mark a small nod before walking away, leaving the rest of the neighbors whispering and laughing among themselves. That evening, Mark sat on his porch with a cold drink in hand, watching Karen's driveway. The bloodstains on her car were still there, and she hadn't dared to come out and clean it again. Smirking, he leaned back and enjoyed the satisfaction of a well-executed lesson.